Welcome back to the Against All Odds, the Less Than 1% Chance podcast with your host, Maria Ponte, where we will hear stories of incredible people thriving against all odds. And my hope is that we can all see how life is always happening for us, even when we are the less than 1% chance. Hey, welcome back to Against All Odds, the Less Than 1% Chance podcast with your host, Maria Aponte. I am so excited for today's chat. I was reading through his information. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be so good. So let me introduce you to Morgan Rich. He's a transformational coach, author, and men's work leader who's built his life around one core truth: integrity, which I love. From a young age, he's faced tremendous pressure to conform, to play the game, to be who the world expected him to be. But against all odds, he chose to listen to his soul instead, which you guys, that's like exactly what I live for. That choice became his life's work. Morgan is the author of The Invitation Beyond, Reclaiming Healthy Masculinity, a book that helps men and women break free from old patterns, reconnect with purpose, and live with heart, courage, and presence. Through his coaching retreats and the Find Your Path program, Morgan guides people to do what he's done: stand on the side of their soul and build life that truly matters. Oh my gosh, Morgan, thank you so much for joining us today. Give us a little bit of background. Where did you start? What against all odds story do you have? And how did you get to where you are now?
Well, Maria, thank you for the work that you do in the world. Just thank you
Oh,
for putting this out there and helping people, your listeners, take on steps against all odds and step into
yeah.
life that are meaningful. So
Thank
grateful,
you.
grateful to
It's
be here.
it's definitely hard work, right?
It is hard work, and I think that at the world as it is today, that we really need hard work. That we need
Agreed.
that we need the invitation. I say the invitation beyond, of course, the invitation beyond the nonsense, beyond the
Yeah.
surface level, beyond the status quo, and into the place where we start to really connect with who are we and how do we bring our place to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like finding purpose and actually going in that direction, which is why I started this podcast. It felt so purposeful. It felt like more people need to hear this. I know that everything that I've gone through hasn't only been for me to go through it, and that's it. I feel like I'm open enough to share so that w- people can see themselves in my story and say, oh my gosh, she's gotten so far, and who would have thought? And maybe I could too.
Yeah, I had an interest. My hope for our conversation and our exploration and for the listeners is to provide an opportunity to that they feel inspired to action, that they feel
Yeah.
relatable to your story and to my story, and that they leave uplifted, that they leave feeling, wait a second, okay, life is full of challenges,
Yeah.
that we can't avoid them. It's
Yep.
just not possible to avoid them. So much of what I work on and have learned in my life is how do we go towards, not away from those challenges.
Yeah.
It's a practice.
Yeah.
It's a practice of learning, like I can do hard things. If we just think about the most meaningful moments of our lives, they come in difficulty.
Yeah.
They come in the gritty, shadowy, dark, challenging,
Yeah.
crappy failure moments. And we have to dig ourselves out of those. And
Yeah.
so much of what I call training for the unknown is about how do we learn? And you've obviously done it. How do we learn to go to be in those places and be uncomfortable?
Yeah. I like to look at it, and I've done a lot of personal growth in my personal work in
Mhm.
order for me to see things this way, but to see that life is happening for you and not to you. Because
Love
you
that.
could look at it either way. You could look at it as, oh, this doesn't feel great right now. However, how is this happening for me? What purpose does this have for my life? And if I can lean into that and lean in with gratitude, and because if I'm in it, it's so that I can get through it and come up better on the other side. So, yeah.
I think there's a common thing that happens in our culture and with a lot of people where you fall into the victim place
Hmm.
of life happened to me. This bad thing happened or this hard thing happened, and it created this ripple,
Yeah.
that now I'm
The
you
victim
know,
of my
the victim
circumstances.
of my circumstances instead of being like, okay, this really hard thing happened. And one of my most profound teaching moments, I was just sharing that my daughter, I just got to visit with my daughter this morning, which is always a beautiful
Always a
moment,
blessing.
such a blessing. Because my kids are 22 and 25.
Yep.
And so they're out in the world, they're doing their
Yeah.
thing. So it's not like those days. And one of my favorite stories is that I loved being a dad. I
Yeah.
loved being a dad. It was one of the things that it was like one of the gifts of my life. And I caught during that time how much I would appreciate the different moments
Yeah.
of lives together. We would go to the swimming pools, just go swimming, and I would jump in the water and play with them and chase them, and they would chase me. And there was so much playfulness. In fact, one of my best friends I met at the swimming pool because he was watching us play. And he just came up to me. He goes, "We've never met, but whatever you bring an energy and an exuberance and a playfulness and a connection that is so beautiful. I want to be your friend."
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much.
The thing in that, Maria, for me was a place of, I somehow caught it in the moment to say, I remember standing in the locker room and changing clothes, and I was cold and I was shivering, and we'd been in the pool for hours. And I just remember this is love. Like, I
Mhm.
love these kids so much. And I also know that life is impermanent, that things
Yeah.
happen. And that it might be that something happens to me or one of them today, tomorrow. In fact, I heard a story this week of a dad, 55-year-old dude, I'm 55, heart attack, just died,
Yeah.
leaving three kids and a spouse. And I just thought, wow, those kids woke up one morning thinking that life was going to go a certain way. And it just, whoop,
Hmm.
and you just never know. And so for me, standing in the locker room, shivering, having played with the kids in the pool, I just caught this moment of saying, I am so appreciative and just so grateful that I can love this moment
Yeah.
because I'm not
Yeah.
promised anything else. And
Yeah.
if it goes a sideways way, like I think I'll be able to make peace with it,
Yep.
just to say, okay, wasn't expecting that, and it's horrible, and I'm okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. All the things, yes. I wanted to be a mom since I could even remember. There was this just like gravity towards
Mm.
kids and kids towards me. And I knew that's what I wanted. And life has its funny ways of testing those things. And so when I was 16 years old, I was sexually assaulted. And that I stayed quiet. I didn't say anything. Those were those moments of feeling like life happened to me and not there's never anything to celebrate in something like that except for what I learned, right? What I took from it. I stayed quiet for about 3 years, but in 2 years after that, I was 18 and I was an adult for the first time, and I went for my first well woman checkup and without a parent, and the doctor's like, "Yeah, you have cancer." And I was like,
Whoa.
"What?" So he had given me HPV, the strand that causes cancer in
Mhm.
women, and I had cervical cancer at 18 years old. And again, moment of like, I felt shook and oh my gosh, spiraled into depression, spiraled into life happening to me. And at 19 it had come back and I had another surgery and I finally spoke up and I finally said something. I went to a counselor and I started to talk about it and I started to get it out of my body because the moment I've heard once from a mindset coach that said when you have dis-ease in your body, it creates disease. And so I was definitely creating a lot of disease in my body due to this. Well, with all of that, the doctor told me I couldn't have kids.
Oh.
And I was like,
Like,
what?
ooh.
This is like what I've always wanted kids. What are you talking about? And I was 19 years old and newly engaged. And
Mhm,
it was just like, what?
mhm,
And
mhm.
so I saw that moment of like, oh, is this really going to happen? So I started at that age. I was like, okay, we're getting married real quick and we're going to start trying to have kids real quick.
Mhm,
And at 19, I started fertility treatment and all of this. And a year and a half later, I was pregnant with my oldest, thank God.
mhm.
However, those were moments that I was just like, is this even happening. But I learned to appreciate every single little moment after that because when like life hits you hard and they're like, "Hey, wake up." And another coach that I've worked with calls it the feather, the brick, and the Mack truck. So it's like
The
life.
feather, the brick, and the Mack truck.
Uh-huh.
Right.
So this is life giving you that feather saying, "Hey, wake up. This is happening. Like it's time to wake up." And you're
Yeah.
like, "Leave me
Yeah, yeah.
alone." And then life throws a brick in your window, and you're so busy looking at the hole in the window that you don't look at the sign on the brick that's tied up on the brick saying, "Hey, life is telling you, wake up, this is happening." And then you're so distracted by all of the craziness of what's happened over here that next thing you look over and it's a Mack truck coming and hitting you. And it was like my Mack truck moment was all of that put together. And I have come to look at moments and love and appreciate those little tiny moments and that like with you and your kids. And I've had those moments that I just look back and I'm like, let the chaos happen. Like let
Yeah,
it
yeah. A couple of things. One is that thank you for the story, and sorry that assault happened and
yeah,
that it went that direction. It's not okay that kind of thing happens.
yeah,
And your ability to dance with it and to make it into something meaningful is Maria's really beautiful. Like
yeah,
it's really beautiful. So thank you for that. The version of the story that I've heard, there's an old teaching story, an old myth of one of the rites of passage that they used to that would happen would be an elder in the community would hold you down underwater
yeah,
and you would have to get out. And at first I was like the feather. You're like, okay, ha ha ha, funny,
yeah,
let me up. And they're like, not letting you up. And then it's like, oh no, let me up. And like the
yeah,
brick comes and you
the
and
panic.
finally still don't let you up. And then finally it's just like, yeah, it's me. And like the Mack truck comes and the
Yeah,
spirit engages. And it's like that's the thrust into life. I took one of my clients out recently, and because I was like, we got to get his spirit going.
yeah,
He's in college and he's having a hard time getting motivated and getting moving. And so we were like, okay, we're gonna break things. We're gonna go break sticks. So I'm like, here, take this stick and swing at it. And he got it, and he was like, and I'm like, okay, that good. Swung at it. You aren't gonna break much doing that. And it was just like this sort of passive. And through the day, he started, just started finding that fire, that intensity of bringing the spirit alive.
yeah.
I just feel is so important and meaningful. And for whatever reason, I guess I'm curious for you, what do you think it was in you that had you have those experiences and allowed you to open and see them not as falling into the victim path, but actually being able to move past that? Like to me,
Yeah.
really an interesting, like, what is it?
I feel it was like having those moments of darkness inside, knowing that there was just there had to be something better. And maybe it came from this faith or there was just this moment of I need to either wake up and learn to appreciate the things because when they tell you, "Hey, so you have this disease that can kill you and you haven't started living." You know, what? That's a moment that shakes you to your core, to everything and then you're like, "No, watch me. Watch
Yeah.
me." And I had cancer had come back when I was 32 twice that year. And at that moment, I was a single mom of three kids. And it was the moment of, wait, what if I let this take me? What happens to my kids? And
Hmm.
it's that moment of like, again, life shaking you to the core and saying, no, I got to do something. And that's when I started to get into personal development. I started to really work on myself. I started to work out. I started to eat right. I started to work on me in a holistic way, like from
Like
the
another
inside.
layer of self-care, another layer
Yeah,
of awareness of, okay, I got to really tend to myself.
exactly. And I learned that I'd love to travel, but I always listened at the beginning of the plane ride or whatever, they say
Yeah.
put your oxygen mask on first and then
Yeah.
help those around you. That is the moment that I felt that to the core of my being
Mm.
was, oh, wait, so I have to take care of myself first? So I have to, because if I don't, then who's gonna stay with these kids and
Mhm.
who's gonna raise them and who's gonna be there and be present for them? Because what life am I gonna leave them if I'm just gonna give up on whatever I'm
Yeah.
supposed to do? And it was those moments in about 2018. My ex-boyfriend, we were in this like long distance, like in and out relationship. He had been in my kid's life for about 6 years at that point, and in my life since I was 15. So I knew him from high school, and he was 35 years old and he passed away of a heart attack. And my kids felt that to the core. And so, again, moments that have shaken me to the core that I have said, nope, watch
Yeah,
me.
yeah, right. And the thing where I get curious, and for myself, and now for you
Yeah,
and for others, my clients and the men that I work with in my groups, and of what is it? How do we get good at moments of adversity? You've had
yeah.
a tremendous amount of adversity, but really to be in this culture is to be in adversity in
Hmm.
so many ways. And it's this place of we can feel at the mercy of events, of news, of all the nonsense, of the fear of this, that, or we can start to have some agency.
Yeah,
And it seems to me like you and me have, for whatever reason, but we've always had that ability
yeah,
to be in the life's interesting moments.
yeah,
And so I just think of like, okay, so not everyone has that. Not everyone is so easily makes that deals with. You've dealt with a lot of stuff in your life
yeah,
over again. Just it's amazing. And yet you continue to use it as motivation. It's a beautiful thing.
yeah,
What is the essence of that? And how can listeners, how can people be in that adversity? So for me, I call it training for the unknown, right?
yeah,
Training for the unknown. If you think about that, it's like training to be in life's moments when your boyfriend just all of a sudden died. Like he's gone. This
yeah,
dad is gone. My dad, when I was 18, died. And it's like, okay, I didn't expect that. And yet here it is. And
yeah,
so I can't be like, well, we're gonna have a do-over. It's like, no, no, you have to be in it. So to me, it's about learning to train for discomfort, to train our bodies to be in the experience of adversity and
yeah,
to start to say to ourselves, hey, here I am in a hard place. There's a lot of feelings, there's a lot of emotions, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of what I like to call sensation, there's a lot of experience,
yeah,
and I'm okay. Like here I am right now, and I'm okay. I'm not dying. This hurts. This is big. This is this
hmm,
particular thing. And I just keep breathing and keep moving. And to me, the one way that I train this is through breath retention, is through holding your breath until so you like start to get down into it and it's uncomfortable. And then just a moment of calm. Like you start to train your nervous system to just have a moment of calm before you breathe.
yeah.
Or cold water, right?
Oh,
I've had
okay.
experiences of we have this whole cold plunge thing, and
Yeah.
I'm definitely not in the camp of if you stay in a cold plunge for 11 and a half minutes, all it's going to be. That's not what it's about. It's not like some flexing contest. What it's about is it's about being in the water, cold water, that's uncomfortable. Again, lots of sensation, lots of stimulus, and then calm. Like that was one of those moments for me that came through where I thought, oh, being calm in this moment teaches my cells, teaches my nervous system, teaches my whole circulatory system, teaches my body and my mind that it's okay. Like here, this is uncomfortable and I'm okay. I'm okay right here.
Yeah.
And what happened for me is when I started to do that training was that moment of calm started to expand. So then I was able to be in the water for 10 seconds, for 2 minutes, and stay present and stay in the sensation and stay with all the adversity.
Yeah.
And so then What I noticed was that then I was able to be in life's interesting moments, and my nervous system had already had a way of knowing, like, okay, it's okay, it's
How
okay.
to calm. Yeah.
Stay calm. I'm here. It's okay. It's like this really hurts. Like I'm really sad.
Yeah.
My dad died. I just got diagnosed with cancer. Or other things, like just smaller things, day-to-day things. My boss yelled at me, whatever it might be, and just be able to be like, okay, so this is unfolding in my favor.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I connect so much with that. I feel like I've had to learn how to breathe in those moments. And maybe it's not a cold plunge or whatever, but it's actually living those moments that I could say, all right, this is like fight or flight right here. And take that moment to breathe and calm myself internally. When I remember the moment that I found out that he had that heart attack, I literally felt like my heart was breaking. There was
Mm.
like I literally it's just the craziest sensation of feeling like parts of your heart are shattered.
Yeah.
And I remember like clasping my chest because it literally felt like that. And it's totally fine to feel all the feelings in that moment and then take that breath to center yourself because I then had to calm myself enough to be able to go to my kids, pick them up from school, and tell them each what happened and be there to support them in their grief and their heartbreak.
Yeah.
And that's shaped them. And I don't want people to have to go through these really life-altering circumstances in order to be able to do that. But when you do train for that unknown, you put yourself in uncomfortable situations and learn how to calm that breath and be very present, like you said, just that
Present.
presence.
Yep. Yep. That's really, I'm with you. My dad died when I was 18.
Yeah,
My spirit engaged in that way we talked about earlier. Some things happened that I can't explain. But I was in college, my first year of college, like you, like this huge rite of
yeah,
passage, this huge transition into adulthood, let's just
yeah,
say. And here this really transformational thing happens. And I stayed in the pain. Like I didn't numb it. And I made a commitment at that point not to drink or smoke or do drugs or anything. Again, that was a spirit engaging part of it. And it turns out it was one of the greatest gifts of my life. And that
yeah.
just seems so odd that my dad dying was one of the greatest gifts of my life. And I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
So
So dark
devastating.
and so painful and so meaningful.
Yeah,
Incredibly just having to dance with the meaning of life,
yeah,
having to dance with what is my purpose, having to dance and feel and experience. Whoa. And for me, there was a huge connection to the natural world that has started to open up in me of seeing here we are in the fall in North America, in the United States, in the Northern Hemisphere, and the leaves are changing and there's death everywhere. Like the trees are, this version of the tree is dying. Oh,
yeah,
it's beautiful.
yeah,
Oh, it's gorgeous. But there is a death. And I like to call them little d deaths, not big D deaths. Little d deaths of this moment, this time, this experience, this part of my life, this segment, this chapter, this whatever it is now dying. This time when my dad was alive. My dad's not going to be alive in this realm again. That time has died. And as we know with forest fires, and as we know with the fall, what happens is things go dark, they go quiet, they have that moment that you were talking about where I have to feel all this and actually feel it. But under the surface, what's happening is that the trees are gathering all this nourishment, all the roots are getting deeper. They're growing their foundation, they're growing this depth, this meaning. And then in the spring, what we know happens is they pull all that energy up from the ground and blossom into this new birth of life. Just like in a forest fire, again, like fire is so rejuvenative
yeah.
and devastating.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like, we aren't very good in this culture. We want to avoid difficulty. We want to avoid pain. We want to avoid discomfort. It's let me soothe myself, scroll more, scroll more, scroll more, to not actually be able to feel and not actually to be to hang in those places. And to me, this feels really beautiful and important. And
Yeah.
there is something I just want to say that I don't like to get into these competitions of like, well, my
Group.
dad died and I had this and I had that. Like if
Yeah.
you're a listener and like maybe you've had a nice life, maybe things have gone okay. It's like you haven't had that like big devastating thing that you have to fight.
Yeah.
And everyone can find something in their story that there's adversity because you can't escape it.
It's not a competition.
It's not a competition. And no one's pain is like we all have our own pain. We all have our
Yeah.
own story. We all have our own experience. And so it's not about like having the right experience. It's just about being present, like you were saying, about being present with what is and noticing and starting to listen to those voices that are saying, like, hey, there's a different way. There's more meaning here in my life. And I'm going to have the courage to step towards it.
Yeah. I love that so much. Wow. That just, as you were talking about the roots, I was literally like in my brain picturing that the death of something beautiful. th- Yeah. And just like those roots getting deeper and in the spring seeing a whole new version of yourself.
Yeah. You think of the winter or the dark or the like we're afraid of the dark or we're afraid of the quiet or afraid of the but that work is so beautiful and meaningful. And there is a slower pace. There's like the winter is quieter, and yet there's so much happening under the surface.
Yeah.
So much. The leaves fall, and the leaves then become part of the soil. Like they decompose and they become part of the soil that then nourishes the system again. And so to me, so much of my work about being with people in those dark moments, in those challenging moments where you're in a relationship and you know that there's things that you have to say. There's things that are in that you got to speak, that you got to bring voice to, where your kids are doing something that you know when your honest moments, I got to say this, right? Like I'm dying and
Yeah.
there's something I need to step towards. So those are the moments that I like to hang out with people in. I had these
Yeah.
people, a woman last year she was heading down the road of being engaged. And she just knew, she said, Morgan, it's just not the right thing to do. But my parents, like the train is
Like
leaving,
the next step.
right? Like the train is leaving the station. And I was like, okay, so this is the moment that this is going to be hard.
Hmm.
There are some things that you got to bring forward, and you're going to disappoint some people, and people are going to be hurt. But if the further this train gets out of the station, the bigger the stakes become.
Yeah.
Because now you're married and you don't want it, you have this sense. Now you have kids and you have this wobble.
Yeah, it's
It's
even
not going to
harder.
get easier.
Yeah.
So now is the moment. Now is the moment. And so then sometimes I work with people who are also in those places also, but it's like hanging in those places and saying, okay, here we are. Here we are in the foundation, in the root building stage of things. And it's okay. Again, it's okay. We're going to be here and hang out here and just work through it. And I don't like have a system that I work with because there aren't.
There's it, oh, I feel that.
No, it's like, no, what I do is I listen and my heart opens and the messages come and the clarity of what someone needs to feel seen and loved. And then we weave in like, what is it that's wanting to come alive in you in the way that it wants to come alive? And then we build out of there for them because there's nowhere to, first of all, there's nowhere to get to because it's all learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. Ah, that's
Thank you.
so
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah, I feel that. I got married very young and also felt it was rushed and there was a purpose, right? I was told I wasn't able to have kids, so nope. Watch me.
Yeah. What a huge moment that is. And just like, yeah, I wanted to acknowledge that earlier. Just
Yeah.
say thank you for not listening,
Yeah.
catching that and just being like, okay, so that's one story, but there are others.
Yeah, and I'm going to forge my own path. And that's always been the case with me. When I was 28, I was like, I don't have a bad relationship with my now ex-husband. Like, we're pretty okay. but that okay was not me happy. And I vowed to myself that my kids were not going to grow up watching me be unhappy, because then that would give them permission to be unhappy. And I didn't want that. I didn't want that to be my story or theirs. And so I ended this marriage, and it was against everything that my parents believed in. My parents were married for 50 years. They were together 57. So it was not what their
Right.
reality
The
was.
standard path wasn't
It wasn't
what
the
you were
standard
supposed
path.
to do.
And they were like, "Well, I don't understand." And and I'm like, "I'm sorry, you don't have to understand. I choose my happiness because, again, if I don't teach my children, if I don't show my children that happiness is something you strive for always, then maybe it's a harder path." Yes, it has been. I think about this all the time. What if I would have gone the different way? Where would we have been? Maybe that would have been easier for a little bit.
Yeah.
But then again, what is that teaching my kids? That they're just going to conform to what society says it's
Yeah.
okay, what parents want for us. And it's never like an ill intent. That's what their views were. And I can tell you that's the one thing that I feel very proud of myself for saying. I know that it's going to be hard. And I know that this is going to depend on me a hell of a lot more
Yeah.
than if I would have stayed. And I asked for, hey, let's talk again. Let's be friends again. I tried to do my part. And then when someone doesn't want to change, they don't want to change until they're ready. And I just allowed that to be our story. Unfortunately, it was harder,
Yeah.
but it felt right. And I would not be where I am today if I wouldn't have gone through all of that.
Yeah, I have a similar story of divorcing the mom of my kids. And I felt like I wasn't alive in the way that I needed to be alive. And I loved being at home. I loved being in our family. There were dreams of the idyllic growing old together and
Yeah.
all the kind of pieces that were hard to give up.
Yeah.
And to say that I was at a stage of my life where I wasn't able to have some of the hard conversations. So I didn't know how to do it yet. And
Hmm.
if I look back, there's some things I wish I had done differently, most
Yeah.
certainly. But at that moment, I really felt like I got to go figure out how to be alive, because the
Yeah.
model that I want to give for my kids is to be fully alive, because this world needs us, needs that. And that's part of the spirit awakening in me, is a place of let's go, let's step towards the interesting places in life, not away
Yeah.
from. And I think that's something as parents that is actually challenging, is to say that there's a one of the epidemics that I think is in the world these days is fear.
Hmm.
And it comes up in parenting in a place of we have to shelter our kids from difficulty. We have to shelter our kids from hard things. We have to make nice and keep them comfortable and keep them safe. And I'm just not a safety first kind of guy. Like
Yeah.
safety first, I think is a that and like don't talk to strangers are very strange things for me, because I want my kids, I want me to talk to strangers. I want the world to be a place where we talk to strangers, where we aren't afraid of people, where we aren't afraid of the world, where we don't think that the boogeyman is out there and that all this bad stuff is out there. Because it's like that to me is just what you spoke to, Maria, was in the short term, there's a safety to it. Oh, you aren't going to have to deal with the difficulty or that short term thing. But by
Yeah.
keeping them safe, what we're doing is saying, one, the world is dangerous, so we're going to stay safe. And then in the long term, you can see what that's created.
Yeah.
We have an anxiety epidemic of people who think the world is dangerous. And the anxiety epidemic is millions and millions of people,
Yeah.
because you look out and it's like, well, I can't go out there because it's not safe.
Hmm.
Instead of what we've been talking about is to say, no, the world is what the world is.
Yeah.
And we're going to go out there and whatever shows up, we're going to deal with it because we have the resilience, we have the capability, we have the confidence, we have the belief, we have the structure, we have the practices, we have the ability to breathe and see like, oh, wait a second. I just need to come present here for a second because I'm in a dangerous situation or this thing is happening.
Yeah.
Right? So again, it's just stepping towards. And so I think all that to say thank you for the courage to step out, for the
Yeah.
courage to be a model of inconvenience. That kids, here we go. We're gonna learn to be in the world because the world is dynamic.
Yeah. So my oldest daughter struggled with mental health from a very young age. And one of the biggest fears, right? Because we still have to deal with fears, for me was, oh my gosh, when she goes out in the world, is she gonna be okay? So when she graduated and 2 days later she left my house
Hmm.
and not to go to
Graduated from high
college,
school.
huh?
Graduated from high school.
Graduated from high school, yeah. She's now 21. And so she graduated and left with a boyfriend. And I was like, "Ugh, oh my gosh, what are we doing?" But I told her one thing. I said, listen, I left my house when I was 19 years old and I never came back. And not because my parents didn't love me or anything like that, but because this is the choices that I made, and I'm more of a watch me, I'm gonna prove you wrong kind of person in general. And I told her, I was like, what I wish for you is that you prove me wrong. You prove that my fear of you leaving without a plan. I hope that you prove me wrong and you don't come back. Not because I don't love you, but because you found what you needed in yourself to say, I've got this and I'm going to ride this choice that I made out. And she's 21 and she hasn't been back. There's this sense of pride because I'm like, yes, you did it. And aside from my fear, and again, it was probably like my parents didn't think that I should get divorced and whatever, like that mindset. I relate it to, I didn't think she was ready for life yet. And I tried to teach her as much as I possibly could. I always said good and bad choices have good and bad consequences, so just be prepared for those. And I didn't think she listened until I've experienced this post-adult life with her, and I'm like, gosh, ooh, it's
Yeah,
back here.
again, it's beautiful. And there's a real power in feeling trusted
Yeah,
and in trusting. And there's a power in, as parents, we can teach, I want to teach my kids all the things so that when they go out there, they're going to be okay,
ready.
ready.
Yeah.
And the way that you learn how to navigate life is by navigating life. And I
Hmm.
always think of it as I grew up in Chicago, and so we learned to drive in snow.
Yeah.
And so when my kids got old enough, I said, like, we got to go drive in snow because the only way you're going to get good at driving in snow is by driving in snow. Like, we can't sit here and talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, when you start to skid, turn the wheel this way. Like, you actually have to go
And experience it.
experience it. And when you experience it, there's some danger and there's some inexperience, and it's not necessarily all safe and it's not necessarily all good. But
Yeah.
so letting our kids go out into the world, like, they have to get in the trouble of their lives.
Yeah. Yes.
That's where they're going to learn and grow
Oh,
and be out there.
yeah.
And as parents, that's one of those moments of loving them. And for me, at least, it's providing a place of, I love you and I trust you.
Yeah.
And please know that you have a place when you fall down and
I'm
when you
here.
really need something. You have a place here. There's a warm meal, there's a clean bed, there's a lot of love here. And there's not a whole dish of I told you so.
Yeah.
You aren't
Yeah.
going to get I told you so here. What you're going to get is you're going to get loved and encouraged and acknowledged for being out there taking the risk. Because a lot of kids and my partner, like, they struggle. Like, they're
Yeah.
caught in that, like, being in the basement playing video game thing.
Hmm.
And that's not being out there taking risks in the world. So when they're
Yeah.
out there taking risks and falling down and getting in trouble, it's like, way to go. Like, yeah. And as we
It,
talked about, the whole thing is like the darkness and the challenge is where you learn.
yeah. Yeah. So my oldest is 21, my son is 20, and my youngest is 17 now. And such a fun age.
Mhm.
So she got in trouble in school with like her friend's vape or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. And this was like the week of homecoming, and they told her, well, you're not going to be able to go to homecoming. And I was like, I didn't even have to take that away. That the school gave all on their own, their teaching moment. And I told her, obviously, she had her consequences for me and so forth. But I sat with her the other day and I was like, I've told you guys over and over again, good and bad choices have good and bad consequences. And she's like, Mom, but you have to let me live. I'm like, girl, you made your choices. I have let you live. I am now letting you know that this is a controlled area, right? This is a controlled experience right now. Life is going to give you those consequences and they're not always going to be fun. And right now, I'm just teaching you that when you make bad choices, there's going to be bad consequences. So, will I let you make your own mistakes? Absolutely, go for it because that's how I learn and that's why I'm where I'm at today. However, just know that this is still very controlled. This is still in a safe space so that you can learn that when you're out there, when you make bad decisions, there's going to be consequences to that. When you make good decisions, there's going to be great consequences to that. So understand that I'm allowing you to make the mistakes. You made that choice.
And I love that. And that's one reason why the discomfort training that we talked about earlier
Mhm.
is so interesting and important because it's starting to learn the skills. It's starting to train the body
Yeah.
when the consequences aren't as high.
Yeah.
If you mess up the cold plunge, it's not like the god of cold plunges is going to come down and kill you or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you stay for 2 minutes versus 1 minute. It's not like nothing happened. There's no big deal.
Yeah.
You start to learn how to turn the volume up so that then when you do get out there, and I take the thing that I do is I take that training, I play ice hockey, and I do a lot of ecstatic dancing, which is just like free dancing, really fun dancing. And I'll take challenging moments for myself into those places. So learning how to be calm while playing hockey. Learning
Yeah.
how to play calm when somebody's coming at me and trying to get the puck from me. Learning how to play in these adverse places, these challenging places. And again, training and training so that then when I do step out, that it's easier. And I can start to then expand that into my relationships and my connections with friends and people and my partner and those places. And I have a program here called Find Your Path, which is really, it's about training this stuff. It's a program for seniors in high school and people headed out into the world who are in that place of not really being sure about what do I want to do? Who am I exactly? And maybe they don't have the same kind of training to say, to have the foundation to be able to make decisions about going out. So they're
Yeah.
still gaining confidence. They're still gaining clarity. They're connected to this place in them that's like, that says, there's something wanting to come alive in me. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know that if I just go to college or I just apply to this thing, I don't know why I'm going and I'm not ready and clear about that step. And so they're taking the courageous place of saying, let's hit pause. And so Find
Yeah.
Your Path, it's a combination residential program. So we have people here in our home
Oh, that's
building
awesome.
community connections, learning how to cook, learning how to take care of each other, learning how to take care of their own stuff and the community stuff in the community places, how to build the foundational skills of stepping into the world and starting to really hone and listen to inner guidance. So we do daily meditation. We do that connection, those practices that help each day connect us into the listening that you were talking about earlier. Those are practices.
Yeah.
Some of us do it
Absolutely.
more naturally, but they are actually practices of sitting for 10 minutes a day, mindfully listening to the trees, watching the trees change, noticing how they're different from last week, noticing the different birds that are here today, noticing different sounds that are here because there's clouds and the sunshine. Just you're starting to bring presence in. And there's a piece for me which I call connecting to the man I know myself to be. So I know how I want to be in the world. I know that I want to be someone who doesn't fall into the victimhood, who
Yeah.
is courageous in the moments of life, who is ready for the unexpected and the unknown, who does that. But I sometimes forget
Yeah.
that's who I
Absolutely.
am. which is just so odd to me. But yeah, like sometimes you forget. So by every day in my practice, coming in and going like, okay, there I am, there I am, there I am, there I am, there I am. And I imagine my guy like sitting by a creek, enjoying the sounds and the feeling and the creek and the water and I go find him, the man I know myself to be, and just say, okay, here's what it feels like to be you. Here's what it feels like to be me. And then I live my day in that expression. So in our Find Your Path program, we start to learn that skill. And in my groups, we actually learn that skill of really starting to train some of the stuff that we've been talking about. Like how do, against all odds, like how do you show up in life against all odds? For some people, it's more natural,
Yeah.
but we can all do it, but it takes attention and it takes focus. And it's not like we do not learn it in school.
No, no, they don't.
Sadly,
Sadly.
frustrating.
Yes.
But like to me, the education reform is to say, like, let's learn how to be connected to each other in the more than human world.
Yeah.
Learn how to be resilient and how to be confident, how to listen with the ears of our heart and be in connection. Like that to me is what I want education to be.
Yeah. And I feel like in general, like just how to be good, kind human beings.
Totally.
And I feel like that's what we're lacking so much right now. And I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, listen, I, the mistakes that we make as we're growing as adults, as whatever, it is what it is. When you go into life, into your everyday, and just be kind human beings that have empathy and compassion for others and treat others how you want to be treated. It is so simple. Like I grew up in a very Hispanic Catholic household. And again, I had a great life, great childhood. Love my parents. I had amazing parents. I have amazing mom, had dad.
Mhm.
However, I have found myself to be more spiritual now and connected within myself and show up as a positive light in this world no matter what. I have a lady at work that calls me the purple energy girl because I bring purple energy to the atmosphere and I love that. That's what I want to bring. I bring a smile. I have compassion and empathy and love for others. I don't care that I don't know you. I have love for you because listen, I don't know what you've gone through, but you're here and you're showing up and I want people to treat me with that love and respect and kindness. And I try to instill that in my kids and it's so important to me. The work that you're doing is amazing. And I really feel like right now, especially that age group leaving high school, I feel like there's very minimal amount of young adults that don't know what path to take. And my kids are not one, my youngest is probably like, I want to do like hair and makeup and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
She's probably the one that has like the most vision for her
Clarity.
future, right? But my son, my oldest, no. And I'm like, listen, I'm not one to make you go to college. If that's not something that calls to you, I am not making you go into debt or paying for something that's not going to go anywhere. I'm here for you to live life
Yep.
and I'll be here and I will support you and be there for you and be that light for you. But what I want is for you to go into the world as kind human beings that have compassion, love, and empathy for others because I feel like that's what we need more than anything in the world.
And that when I say like I connect to the man I know myself to be, like
Yeah.
that kindness, that connection, that desire to be in the world. And if you look at all the wisdom traditions, just all the wisdom traditions, the bottom line, the punchline of all of them is very, very simple.
Yeah.
Be present.
Yes.
Like be right in this beautiful emergent moment and
Yeah.
allow whatever happens to happen and bring love and connection into this moment.
Yeah.
And that's it. Now, The practice, like the nuance of that gets to be complicated, but the idea of it
Yeah.
is really quite simple. And so there's that, which I just think is beautiful of like, let's just
Yeah.
keep being present, have integrity. That's the integrity piece that,
Yes.
like I know what it feels like to be me in the world in a way I want to be me. So now I find the courage to do it as much as I possibly can. And I fall down all the time. And then I get up. And I think that's what we want. That's what I want from my kids is, when they graduate, when they finish, that some know their path.
Yeah.
Some people know their path, others don't. But one piece is that there's not an option to not engage.
Yeah.
College, great, that works for some people. Not college, great, that works for some people. But like sitting at home playing video games, that's not an option because that's not getting us where we want to go. That's
Mm-hmm.
checking out of the world.
Yep.
It's about engaging, it's about stepping into and learning and growing and uncovering. And the way that you find, like, I almost promise that your youngest daughter, starting out with wanting to do hair and makeup and beauty, like will find a different, that's
Yeah.
a start. And
Yeah.
then you'll find something else because that's what happens is when we
Yep.
step into this and we start to learn something, you're like, oh, there's this piece of this that I like. Oh, and there's this piece of this that I like. And there's this piece and I really don't like that at all. So I'm going to do this. And the way that you start to learn that is by banging into the world,
Yeah.
not learn
Absolutely.
that sitting in your basement playing video games.
Agreed. 100% agreed. I went to school for cosmetology and I don't do anything with cosmetology. I enjoy doing my own makeup and somewhat my hair, and that's about it.
I like doing my hair too.
I know you got it all easy. I love that. So you talk about hanging in the difficulty. The
Yes.
real growth comes from meeting the intensity of life rather than avoiding it. How can people begin to practice that themselves?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I went away to boarding school when I was 15 to play ice hockey and baseball
Yeah.
professionally. And the dream died pretty fast. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, now how do I deal with that? And then I'm 18, my dad dies. And so it's like life brought these initiations. So sometimes those happen and you got to learn how to hang in there.
Yeah.
And remember, like we do, you do, I do, is that there's a lot of learning in that darkness.
Yeah.
But what I again teach, coach, work on, practice, live, work on in my groups. Like what we're doing is we're showing up week after week. These beautiful men, sensitive men who are in relationship, men who are dads, men who are looking for partners, men who are just these gorgeous. I always say, like, I want the world to know these guys.
Yeah.
We go and we cry and we scream and we talk about sex and we talk about our relationships and we talk about our lives and we get in there and do it. And the foundation again is coming to that place of learning to step towards, not away from, learning to
Yeah.
train that discomfort muscle, that adversity muscle. If you don't feel good at it, that's really okay.
Yeah.
Start to take steps. And so there's that. I already talked about the cold water and all those kind of
Yeah.
pieces. But another really, really important component of that takes a huge amount of creativity and courage is to learn how to tell our story with a huge amount of generosity and nourishment and kindness. So if you don't feel competent or you don't feel good at being uncomfortable, then you take a step towards it. So, you're like, well, I can't do cold water because it's too uncomfortable, but you try one day. Instead of being like, God, I really suck at this. You can go, wait a second, I really care enough to try this thing and I'm not very good at it yet, but I'm getting better. And I actually
Yeah.
have the willingness and the desire even to step towards a bigger expression of my life, right? I'm shifting the way that I'm telling the story. If you're in a relationship and you aren't saying the thing that you need to say, you can say like, God, I suck. I'm just like not good at this. I'm failing. I'm not saying the thing I should say. What a bad human being I am. Instead, you can start to be like, okay, here it is. Like, I really care about this. I know that it matters to me. I'm actually noticing the place in myself that knows that I have to say something or have a conversation. And
Yeah.
so here I am in the wrestling and the uncomfortable, like wrestling, trying to figure out how am I actually going to say this? Because I know it's going to have really big impacts for myself and my partner and whoever it might be. And so I'm going to be in the beautiful uncovering of how this is going. Right. And so we tend to say just this constant noise in our head, the self-talk. It's like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not enough. I'm not good at this. I should be more. I should have started sooner. They're better at this than I am. Here I am listening to this podcast and they all have these big stories to tell. And I don't have any big stories and I don't know how to tell them. And all I do is I'm playing victim and I'm doing this. And like, we're just like, blah, like barfing on ourselves.
Yeah.
So learning how to, and again, creativity and courage, you have to really start to learn how to talk about my story in a way that is kind and says, here I am being wildly imperfect. And I don't even really know where I'm going, but I'm willing to sit here and be in the discomfort and take a small step forward and hope that something uncovers. And then I trust that just by sitting here and feeling that and saying this, that something will be different. And then you do the same thing tomorrow, and then you do the same thing the next day, and then you do the same thing the next day. And eventually it just starts to expand, just like that cold water moment for myself.
Yeah.
What started out as just a moment. And then it started to expand where now I can hang out in a waterfall, which I love doing, lay in the waterfall and just feel the water, and I can be there for a long time.
Yeah.
Present, totally present.
Love that. So you talk about training for the unknown, about building presence like a muscle, which is what we just talked about. What daily practices or rituals actually help you do that for
Yeah.
yourself?
So So what I find is, again, a 10-minute meditation every morning, at least. And what really happens is with all my practices, there's some reluctance to do them,
Hmm.
even in cold water. Like, I'm really good at being in cold water. And even so, I'm just like, oh God, am I going to get in the water? Ooh, okay. And I just make a commitment to myself to go like, okay, I'm going to have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So I devote 10 minutes a day and I sit and listen, and it deepens. And in that side, I go find the man I know myself to be. I connect with the natural world. And sometimes that 10 minutes is torture,
Yeah.
where I'm just in my own whatever. For whatever reason, it's not
In your own
feeling it,
head. Yeah.
not feeling it today.
Yep.
And I get done with the 10 minutes and I'm like, okay, wow, that was really challenging. And I did it.
Hmm.
And it doesn't have to be perfect. And then the next day I come back and I sit, and like 2 hours later, I'm still sitting there.
Yeah.
And it's this expansive, beautiful, connected to all the energies of the cosmos kind of moment. And then just trust that if I keep showing up and doing the practice and again, nourishing self-talk, that what happens is that I start to notice what it like I just start to notice myself. I start to get connected to inner guidance. I start to notice like, oh, here's the part of me that really wants to be alive.
Yeah.
Here's the parts of me that don't want to be alive. And contrast the opposite. If you're like, oh, I don't really like that. I don't want to do that. There's gold in those moments. Because if you don't
Yeah.
know what you want, or if you're like, oh, I don't like that, means somewhere in there is that you do know what you want,
Yeah.
right? Because if you can't say, I don't want that, unless you have some sense
What you want.
of what you want. But that voice is usually pretty quiet. So in the morning meditation, I often sit and I start to listen into that, and it
Yeah.
grows. And so those really, Maria, are the practices that are the place to start. And I have, for your listeners, if you go to morganrich.com/courage, there's a download there for you about your next courageous step, about how to, and it outlines some of the stuff we've talked about,
I love it.
how to take your next courageous step, which might be a conversation, which might be starting meditation, which might be doing a cold plunge, which might be leaving your job, which might be going and traveling, whatever. It doesn't, like, it can be small or big. It doesn't, like,
Yeah.
really doesn't matter. And you can also sign up for a 15-minute conversation with me if you'd like to do that. And there's then some also resources for Find Your Path, the program I was talking about, for my coaching for the men's groups. And yeah, all
And your
things.
book.
And the
I'll put
book,
all
it's
the
all
links.
in there. Yeah, yeah, it's all in there.
I'll put all the things, all the links, all the
Yeah.
everything in the show notes so our listeners can definitely connect with you. This has been so amazing. Thank you so much, Morgan. Wow, what powerful conversation, I feel like. So, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. And really, Maria, thank you for bringing what you bring, and just the against all odds. You really have had quite a journey. And
Yeah.
to be as positive as to turn those into the beautiful moments of learning and deepening for your kids, for the world, like that is an energy that I like to say, it's like putting a ripple out into the world.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
let's keep sending these ripples out to a world that is really, really hungry for that aliveness, for that connection, for that kindness, and all of that in there. So honored to be here. Thank you. And thank you
Thank
for
you.
all that you put into the world. It makes a difference.
Thank you so much. Listeners, I hope that you got as much from today's conversation as I did. This was amazing. I, again, will put all of Morgan's information in the show notes, and please go check him out. Thank you so much for listening today. Peace out, guys. Love your life. Bye.